in here.
So last year, there was a bit of a debacle with Unity, which is a problem because it's the engine that I use to make literally all of my games. So I decided I wanted a change. I got the Unreal Engine. I figure a basic first-person shooter, you know, one of those ones where you run around and shoot at enemies that chase you, wouldn't be too big of a deal. You know, I could get it done in a couple of weeks. It's... Maybe Godot will love me. So we start by creating a new project and just getting a sort of hang of things, you know, just looking at it and what is this? What is that? But I looked up a couple tutorials and got something built up pretty quickly. Behold, I have made a chair that spins. And normally when building a first-person shooter, I start with my pills. All of my pills. I love my pills. But that's a strange thing about the Unreal Engine is it just has a character built the way they expect you to be building them, already set up for you to use. And look at that, it's got scripts in it and everything. Cool. I started by learning a little bit about how objects interact within the game, how to make scripts recognize each other and how they interact when they impact each other and all that kind of stuff. Of course, the very first thing I did was use this power to set fire to literally everything I possibly could. Where there's fire, there's health concerns. For us to have health concerns, we need a health system. I decided that I wanted to do something a little different than standard HP. In this game, you don't have a maximum health of 100 points. You have a starting health of 100 points, and that goes up and down as the game goes on. Every time you get there's a bit of mold right above me, isn't there? Every time you grab a pickup or kill an enemy, you gain HP. Every time you're attacked by an enemy, you lose HP. I also decided to tie the HP system to pretty much everything else you do in the game. Movement costs HP, jumping costs HP, shooting your gun costs HP, so the entire game is one big cost analysis. And if you stand still, you lose 5 times as much HP as normal. I really don't like campers. I really don't like campers. But yeah, let's start with making a pickup. The life pickup is a pretty simple thing. When you run into it, you gain 20 life points. If you shoot it, you gain half that. And it works. I'd love to show you some cool footage of me making the enemies that chase the player around, but I forgot. Basically, I took the player character model and just replaced the player input with an AI that chases around the player, and once it gets close enough to the player, it explodes and deals damage. And that's not what a tutorial told me to do. I definitely knew what I was doing. I got a book. And then I used that basic enemy as a template to make other enemies that have different features to them, but all operate basically the same. Early on in learning how to use Unreal's blueprints, I decided to take a break from the tutorials and try writing something myself, both because it builds up confidence in one's own abilities and because you often learn things that you didn't know before. So I built a spawner that spawns lights every few feet and then sets their color based on their position. One blueprint that cycles through the color over time later, and I had my own RGB level. I thought it was really cool, but my GPU was screaming at me. This is the point where the game went from something that I was just using as a learning tool to something that I'd actually like to show off to people, because I made a change to it. I removed all of the lights because it was not performant at all, and I put them inside the enemies. And then I removed all other light sources, so the game is pitch black except for the enemies. It looked good. It looks so frickin' good. I am a master of art. Programmer art, but art nonetheless. After that, I added doors, because, you know, every game needs just a little bit of claustrophobia, you know? And there are also some gates that you can shoot down, just to add one little extra layer of separation to different parts of the level. This new camera is like really smooth motion on the screen. Wonder if that'll translate into the video. Now I need the game to start out easy when you first spawn in, and then over time get more difficult. And that was actually pretty easy to handle. I set it so that certain enemies will only spawn when your score goes above a certain threshold. And that threshold slowly lowers over time, so eventually you'll be facing them whether you want to or not. There's a very large invincible enemy that will chase you around and slowly pick up speed, and the number of pickups slowly dwindles as the game goes on. With all of these in place, the game just slowly gets harder until eventually you die. And your time survived is your final score. All right, so we have an art style, we have a goal, we have enemies. Now we just need a place to put all this stuff. An area where they all interact together. A level, if you will. So the engine has been crashing on me because I have been trying to build the nav mesh, and apparently that requires a decent amount of memory once your map gets over a certain size. So I need to get more RAM. I ordered some refurbished stuff off Amazon. It's RAM. It's a RAM stick. It should be fine. There we go. No more sounds. Now, I suck at level design. Just gonna get that out of the way. Like, genuinely, I hate doing it. I'm horrible at it. But I also usually prefer games that have pre-built levels over something that's procedurally generated. I kind of painted myself into a corner here, if I'm being honest. Before I film anything, I just need to turn this camera around because we need to confirm. Is he the goodest boy? Who's a good boy? You a good boy for me? Who's a good boy? We can make this easier for ourselves by splitting up the map. So the map is going to be, wow, this is a really bad marker. You can divide the map up into segments. Now, my segments is just a simple, okay, and then work on each part one piece at a time. We'll be doing a city map split into 4 corners. I figure a park, a stadium, a mall, some skyscrapers. Yeah, that'll work. Now let's spend the next month working on it, on and off, because I hate doing this. Palworld came out at the same time, and I have absolutely zero sense of self-control. I didn't even record that part. I'm just building my base in Palworld. Next came the UI for Next up was the UI. My original plan was just to leave it as is. At the top center of the screen, there was a timer, which was basically your score, and your HP, which is, your life, how long you have left to play the game. This worked for the most part, but you really couldn't tell what points you were gaining or losing from doing different things. So I dug into the Unreal Engine and found a way to set up a 3D UI. Now, when enemies die, numbers pop out of them, telling you how many points you got. Conversely, when you get damaged, you get an indicator saying, oh, hey, you just lost points for doing that. I thought it looked pretty good. It made the game a lot more responsive and made the player much more aware of how they were spending their points, and just made the game overall better. With the UI in place, all I really have left to add is some sound effects. Also, I have bad news, guys. Mom is tired, so we're having the Unreal Engine's example music for dinner. And with that, the game is done. I tossed it on itch, and you can play it for free. Twitch makes you come up with a name for your game, and I couldn't think of one in the time, so I called it Liminal Dark. Because it's dark. It's not liminal though. It doesn't fit that description, but the name sounded cool, so I took it. It's mine now. And you can't have it. I'm not giving it back. So this project was a pretty decent introduction to Unreal. I feel like I got my hands into the engine enough that I can determine if I want to use it in the future or not, and I don't know if I do. Before I get into that, I need to thank Marcus Romero and Brendan Sewell. Without their guidance, I would be on drugs, dead, pregnant. So, okay, my opinion on the Unreal Engine. The engine is very opinionated. they want you to use specific tools to do specific things. They want everything done a specific way. I don't know if that's just how I learned it or how the documentation isn't written, but it feels like there's specific kinds of games that the Unreal Engine is good for, and it's difficult to make games outside of that if you use the engine. Like, it has a lot of specialized tools for setting up the AI and doing camera work and controls that, from what I understand, Godot doesn't have it, and from what I've experienced, Unity doesn't really have that. They don't have the tools at all. You have to build the tools yourself, which I think I prefer. If a project comes up that I think would be good for the Unreal Engine, I will use that, but for the future, I'm going to try learning Godot, and I have one project that I'm still working on in Unity that I want to just finish and throw out there. Again, it's going to be on my itch. Maybe I'll make a video about it. Maybe it'll just appear one day. I don't know. But yes, Liminal Dark is on itch. You can play it now for free. There will be a link in the description and maybe in the box up here or over here. I have no idea how YouTube does it or how my camera's too new. I don't know how it records things. For future reference, this is my left hand. This is my right hand. So we'll figure that out. Please like and subscribe this video and channel, or else. Okay, we're done.